Hi, I promise I'm not being a stranger. But yes, I promised that I was gonna give you hacks. Gave you one already for summary writing. And now it's time for the short story hack. So it's story time with AID-ucate. And this is part 1. Of course, this video is being especially made for those of you who will be doing the CSEC English A exam, whether January or June, whenever. And this video is gonna be about what you need to know. Before we get into the business of writing the story, we really need some background information. What's the weight and what are the marks for this story? Of course, this story should be section C, which is the third question, the third and fourth question, because either you'll be given a line, which should be in your story, or a picture, which is what you will be used to write that story. I believe you are given about 400 to 450 words as guide, but bear in mind that you can write more. Not too much more though, please. And I would not advise you to write less. Now, it's 25 marks overall for this story, and it makes up 12% of the final grade. What are you being graded on? Well, the content and the relevance of your story. So you need to sort out your storyline, you need to sort out your characters, and make sure that everything makes sense in terms of what is happening in that story. Make sure the events take place in a logical order and your story continues to be developed in a sensible way. Of course, you know that storyline has to do with your plot, and we'll talk about the plot later on. Next thing you're being graded on is your organization. Did you actually put your sequence of events in the best way? And there are creative ways to do this, but just make sure that the way you have decided to place your order of events is still in a logical way so that your reader is not confused. And finally, use of language, of course. We cannot forget this. It's English language. It's a language and you're expressing yourself in that language, but you have to know the basics, right? You have to know your grammar, your sentence structure, your mechanics, your choice of words. Because of course, the words you choose affect even the mood and the tone. And so we need to be careful of that. Now, what should you remember about stories? A story, and this is one of my favorite things to write and to read. A story allows you to just express yourself so freely and so creatively. So it is literary in style. There are many literary devices that you can use to make the language not look so plain. This is when it gets creative. Of course, stories are descriptive. It should not just be you telling me everything. I should be able to picture things going on, picture your character, because you have employed descriptive styles. And of course, a story is also narrative. So yes, sequence of events. Things are happening, things are unfolding, and I am caught up in it all. But remember, you are being graded, so we have to note the following things. The structure of your story is going to matter. I always tell my students, think about your story as an essay just the same. It still needs paragraphs, okay? So don't just put everything all in one. It still needs to be organized. The length matters. Remember, I think your word limit is 450, but if you go over that, they don't mind as long as your story is good. Content matters. We can't have a story that's not telling us anything much or not even, grabbing our attention. We need stuff. We need content that will keep us wanting to read. And make sure it's realistic. Please write about things you know so that it's not difficult to write. Creativity matters. Please do not just tell me that the guy is happy. I don't know what happiness is in terms of your character. So you have to be creative in how you show to your readers what his happiness is, because happiness is relative. My happiness does not equate to your character's happiness, and so certain words, we really need to avoid them, and make sure that we're creative in expressing what it is we want our readers to really see that's going on in our story. And finally, endings matter. Oh yes, happy endings are desired. Happy endings are desired. But that's completely up to you. But end your story. Don't leave us hanging, okay? So before you start to write, stay calm and slow down. I'm going to tell you what I mean by slow down. Do not rush through the life of your character and the events of the character. Slow it down for your reader so that they can picture exactly what's happening, even in a minute of that person's life. That can be the whole story. Trust me, 1 minute of your character's life can be 500 words. I promise. And so don't get caught into the trap where you feel like your story just has to keep unfolding. Things need to be happening, and you're moving from one place to another, and one scene to another, another character to another. You can slow things down. As a matter of fact, slowing things down helps your readers to appreciate your skill of expression. All right. So before you actually write anything down, I told you before in the summary, come with a plan. How am I going to attack this story on the day? And you will know how to do that because you would have been practicing your short story writing. Always come with a plan for how you're going to work with the elements of the story. Regardless of what your prompt is going to be, nobody can predict what the prompt will be, what that picture will be, or what that line will be. So you have to have a plan based on background knowledge, background experience, what you will do for your elements. So every story has elements. You will need a character or 2 or 3 or 4. You must decide on a plot. You must think of a theme, and you must think of the point of view. What do I mean by character? The character is the person in the story. Characters, persons in the story. Okay. It's not enough to just have in your mind what your character looks like and the language that your character will speak. You will have to know your characters intricately. And one advice is to make the character you, or make the character someone you know very well, so that if you're given a prompt about a death, if you are given a prompt about a wedding, a birthday party, travel, you will already know how your character will fit into that scenario. Know your character from day one. Your plot is actually the sequence, what's going on, the who, the what, the when, and the where. So we need to know about how we're going to have our story in terms of the setting, how these characters are going to come into play, what problems they're going to have with the situation, how this tension is going to build up to the highest point, highest drama, and then where things get resolved or unresolved. The theme, is it going to be a story about love, about how growing up poor can lead to success? But you need a theme. You need to look at it and think, what could the theme be? overcoming trauma, anything. And the point of view, will you write as the character? Will you write in the first person and say I? Or will you write in the third person where you are not in the story, but you are seeing everything unfold? And it's really important to maintain that point of view. Don't go switching from the I and then start saying he or she. Keep that point of view. If you're not in the story, you're not in the story. That's fine. So John is doing that. And you can see all that John does and all that is happening around John. But you must plan. Listen, come with a plan about how you're going to tackle the story regardless of the prompt. Think of the prompt as you being placed in a new situation that may not be so new after all. Because you know your character so well, you will know how they respond based on the prompt you have been given. Okay, my wonderful students, we've talked about the short story for CSEC English A and how you get your grades. Then, of course, we made sure to look at the fact that our story is creative. It is not expository in style at all. Even though you can have those sentences that are plain, it is expected that you dive into that creativity. Find and use your words creatively. And so we're looking at a prompt now, and this is for the next video. I'm actually going to ask KJ to interpret this for me to see if he can write something that truly captures the essence of this image. Of course, you know, getting an image in CSEC English A is one of those options. Many people may not choose to write the story based on an image and prefer to use the line. But I have come to really appreciate the images. And so, guys, just remember, it is not enough if you're looking at this female. It is not enough that if you think she's sad to just say she is oh so sad. She is having the worst day of her life. That is not creative enough. Creativity means that you're going to find and make sure those words you choose, along with employing your literary devices, will create more than just a feeling, but it makes me feel like I am in this story. And so it's not just a description of feelings, but it is so much more for the reader. The reader can relate. The reader can feel like they are in or a part of your story. So this is your little teaser for video number 2. I hope this video helped you. And as usual, happy writing.